Hello everybody. Well, I finally did it. I decided to unpack my old Apple II Plus from the late 1970s. I packed this away, maybe 20 years ago. I don't even remember. I did copy all of the images of the floppies onto a IBM PC through the serial cable using some software, which I don't remember what it was, but I have all the images of the floppies in case they degraded over time. But I wanted to open up this box because I had forgot what I had put in it. It's kind of like a time capsule, so I want to share this with you, and we'll go through it piece by piece. So let's see here. Let me see what we got. All right, first thing out of the box that was wrapped in some electrostatic protective bubble wrap is an Apple II motherboard, and it seems to be in pristine condition. I don't know what ROMs are in it, if it's the Integer Basic ROMs or the Apple Soft floating point ROM, so I'll have to boot it up and see. It seems to be version, I guess, the 8031. So probably the 8031st board they made. I don't know, but it's in beautiful shape. There's no oxidation on any of the pins hardly. These ROMs were notorious for getting oxidation. You can see some of it kind of dark on there. And what I used to do is pull them out and use a pencil eraser and clean them off and put them back in. And that usually solved any problems I had if they didn't make contact with the socket. So there you have it. That's item number one. Item number two is the original, looks like an Apple joystick, and I had put it in one of these, I guess it was like a socket extender for the joystick socket to protect the pins, and it looks like it's in good shape. So that's item number two, Apple joystick, and it looks like it's working pretty good. Yeah, movement feels good. We'll see how the resistors are in there once we get it more and look at it more in detail and see if the pots are actually smooth. I guess I can just run some software on the Apple once I get it running to see how well that thing works. All right, next on the list are some Apple interface cards. I do recall what this one is. I hope I still have the software. It's an EEPROM programmer card. And it was designed, I think, to only do 2716s and possibly 2732 EEPROMs. And it uses an old 8255 parallel port interface with some other logic on there, and maybe a charge pump for the voltage. So, might need to change those capacitors. But that's an old EEPROM card that I think we actually bought as a kit and put together, if I recall. Then we also got this very unique video card that uses the TMS9918 video chip, and it allowed the Apple to use the graphics processor in that IC, which I think had more powerful graphics than the Apple had sprites and so forth. I don't know if I hopefully still have the software for that. And then we also have a spare disk drive card with no parts on it. I don't know why I had that, maybe as a spare, but that's what that is, an old floppy drive controller for the Apple without any parts. Quentin Research, so it must have been a secondary board made later for whatever reason. But and I don't know what any of those values are for the resistors and capacitors, so I don't think I could even get it working. I'd have to do a lot of research. But anyway, that's what's in that pile. All right, next on the list we have an original Mountain Hardware real-time clock card for the Apple II. This thing was a monster, and it ran on a 9-volt battery for backup, which is good because I pulled it off, so there's no corrosion, nothing to destroy the board. And I'm sure today you could probably just put a lithium 9-volt on there to last forever. So we used to use these since the Apple really didn't have a way, at least I don't know about the latest Pro DOS or any of the later DOSes other than DOS 3.2 and 3.3, but there was no way to tag your files with a date that I recall. But what we used these for was if we ran a bulletin board system, we would use the real-time clock to basically tag the messages with the time and date and all that. Some business software used it. It was really interesting piece of hardware. I think what you would do is just do a input number slot, and you could read from the slot and get the clock, date, time, and so forth. And then this is a Microtech printer card, parallel printer card with a huge cable Centronics interface for the Apple II. So that's what's in that pile. All right, man, the next find. We found a bunch of cassettes. Before I had a floppy drive, I would save programs on cassette, and you could also purchase programs on cassette. So I got some rare finds here. These are original Apple programs that came on cassette, and you would stick them in your cassette recorder and load them in through the cassette port on the Apple. Penny Arcade, Hopalong Cassidy, a phoneless program. I guess this one had a test tone so you could align the speed of your cassette. Little Brick Out. God, everybody remembers Little Brick Out. Little Brick Out. And Personal Micro Chess. And then a couple other Fighter Pilot and Bomber by Bob Bishop. Bob Bishop was very well known for writing software for Apple back in the day. And so he wrote this program called Bomber. I don't know if any of these work, but it'll be interesting to see if they could be recovered. I'm going to have to ask my friend and see if he could maybe recover these with the special software he has at his museum. So yeah, maybe I'll give him a shout. Okay, next pile we found, sorry about this, turn this way, an old Apple timepiece by Comrex, and thank goodness that Varta battery did not leak. That would have been a mess. But I have this and the original manual which came with it, so I'm gonna see if, first thing I'm gonna do is take that damn Varta off there and get rid of it before it destroys this board. And then we'll see, but that's another real-time clock for the Apple. Again, if you were running a bulletin board system or something, some business software, something that required the time, that's what this did. And I think this one had probably that chip right there. Yeah, it had a real-time clock chip instead of doing it like the other one. The other one's a classic. It was all done with TTL, but this is it's got a custom chip there, so I could probably look that up and get the registers and stuff, but we got the manual. So, and then let's see, in here, this was the original, I must still have it in the Apple. It's the original Videoterm 80 column card for that. So next let's go see what's in the Apple, and let's go see what's in the Apple II. I bet you this one's in the Apple II. And yeah, Videx Videoterm. All right, be right back. All righty, here's the moment of truth. This is my old Apple II Plus that I worked so hard one summer as a busboy to save the money to buy. My parents thought I was nuts. Anyway, I got it with the cassette tape and 16K of memory when I first bought it, but you know, I expanded it later on, and I eventually got this first floppy drive, the Disk 2 from Apple, and then eventually I got the second drive from Microsi, which was a better drive. This Apple drive, I mean, it was a great design. Woz did a really great engineering job on really designing the drive with the minimal amount of parts, but there was a read-write head amplifier on this damn thing that was super static sensitive, and every once in a while it would just blow. And you know, you had to go to the Apple store and buy it, and you got to be real careful when you replace it because it was so static sensitive. And it cost an arm and a leg for the darn thing, so I ended up deciding to buy a different drive when I upgraded to this Microsi. I don't even know if these work, but let's see what's inside. Let's go look inside here. Let's pull the case off and see. Oh, we got a treasure trove of cards in here. Holy smokes. I forgot, honestly, what I left in here. This is going to be really interesting. So I'll tell you what, let me pull these cards and we'll do a video on each one, because I don't want to fire this up with the dang cards in it because I'll pull more current. And according to Adrian at Adrian's Basement, I'm going to pull this. I don't know when I replaced this power supply. This is definitely not an Apple power supply, so I must have changed it out at one time. So I might try to fire this up because this looks like a different power supply. Maybe it might still work. But in any case, let me pull these cards out and let's see what they are. I'll be right back. All right, the first card I pulled out is by Reina Systems. And this was a second manufacturer of a floppy controller. I forgot all the specifics. I'm going to have to go dig up and see what was special about this. It's not the Apple controller. It's made by Reina Systems, and there was something special about this, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. But both my floppy drives are tied into it, and so we'll go ahead and do some research and find out what the Reina Systems, what the heck this was, what was the reason. Anyway, there's the first card. Hey, the second card I recognize only because it has the Z80A CPU. This is an original Microsoft Z80 card for the Apple, and it allowed you to boot CP/M and run CP/M software. It would actually cycle the 6502 processor in and out. I think it kept certain things on the 6502 for I/O to the floppy and so forth, and then it would kick the Z80 in for all of the Z80 code. I'm not 100%, but I got all the books and manuals on this, so this is the next big mystery one. But yeah, this is the old Microsoft Z80 card. The LED would light up when you were in Z80 mode, and so that's man, that's a long time since I've seen that. Let's go on to the next one. All right, I recognize this one too. The next card is that Videx card, I believe, that I showed you earlier. It's a 80 column card, and it used this HD60, what is it? It's the Hitachi version of the 6845 video controller. And what this allowed you to do is, I'm sure there's character sets in these ROMs, and then this is the ROM for the interface. And what this allowed you to do is to have 80 column video when you were editing software or anything. It gave you 80 columns on the Apple, and it had its own video out cable, so it came directly off this card. You just completely abandoned the Apple video and went with this when you were doing 80 columns. All right, the next card, believe it or not, is an original Apple communications board, and it has a 6850 UART on there. I think I modified it here. I modified it for a higher baud rate, I believe. It's so long ago. I mean, we're talking 40 years, easy, maybe more. But this is an original serial card. It had the serial RS-232 port, which you would hook to a modem or another piece of gear, printer, computer, and by the way, I'm glad. I just realized I'm forgetting what slots I pulled these cards out of. So I'm glad I took a picture earlier in the video of all of them in the computer, so I'll try to remember where they were at, because believe it or not, some software was slot independent. So maybe we'll put them back exactly where we found them. This one does not have gold leads because Apple was, of course, bare minimum cheap, and so that could use a good cleaning with an eraser. I believe the slots had a lot of the other cards had gold pins, but not Apple. They were bare minimums trying to get started at the time, so they cut cost everywhere. But anyway, that's the Apple card, Apple serial communication board. All right, the next card, I had to go by memory because there's nothing on it that I can tell, but this is a clue right here. And what I remember this was, because I have a speaker lying around with this connector on it. And what this was, I believe that was volume. This was a speech card for the Apple. And you would send output to the slot that this card was in, and it would talk. I think it was called, it might have been the Votrax chip or one of these other chips. But this card would actually, you would send it some text, and there was a way to format the text too so that the vowels and consonants would come out correctly. But this would do speech, computer speech, which was at the time, they were trying to do it with software, you buzzing the speaker, and it was okay, but this one did a great job for its time. Anyway, I'm glad this card's rare. This card's a rarity, and we'll have to see if it still works. Last but not least is the big card here. And what this was basically a Ramdisk. I remember this. And it's kind of complicated because it actually went into you remove one of the chips from the Apple and you would insert that into it. I'd probably find out what that chip is by looking at the other board. And then you would slide this in the slot. And this, along with its software on the ROM, it would look like a drive, and it was all RAM. And so what this allowed us to do when we developed software with the Apple was to boot up on a floppy and copy all of our work, anything we were compiling or any tool, anything that went to the drive, accessed the drive a lot, like a compiler, we would push it onto the RAM drive, and it sped up compile time significantly. So that's what that is. I'm thinking I'm going to leave it. You know what? I'm going to pull it because I just don't want this to pull any current when I first turn it on. I want the minimum amount of current. So I'm going to pull it and see if I have the chip that goes in that slot. And we'll see. Yeah, this is a unique card. I don't even know if they made, gosh, they made, I don't know how many of these they made, but they were a lifesaver when we were using this as a work tool. All right, let's give it a shot. I'll figure out how to pull it out. I guess it's got two cables, one over here too. So not sure what that chip was. So we'll have to look and see if we got the replacements and see if we can do this. Anyway, I'll be back. Hi everybody, I actually found a bag with the parts that were missing, or that I pulled out actually, to put the RAM disk in. So I've restored this particular 74LS153. Let's see, right here. So is that 74LS153, and I'm documenting this for myself. And then this RAM chip comes out and basically hooks to those two cables. Thank goodness these computers didn't operate too fast, 1 megahertz, maybe a little bit more, because with all those cables lying around, man, the crosstalk at the frequencies that we use on computers today would have been crazy. All right, I think we're going to try to fire it up. Let's hope for the best. See if we get a beep out of this thing. So let me go get a cable, and we'll put some power on it. I'll be right back. This is the moment of truth where we find out if the smoke comes out. According to Adrian at Adrian's Digital Basement, these power supplies have some really old, even though this is a newer one, so I'm hoping it's not as old as an original Apple. I must have replaced it at one time, but they had these filter line capacitors back here toward the back that are tied directly across the AC line for filtering noise, and they go bad and short out and smoke. So let's listen for the beep and cross your fingers with me, everybody. Let's see what happens. Here we go. Oh, it's actually on. I had it on. Shit. I don't hear a beep though. That's not good. No beep. All right. Well, at least smoke didn't come out of the power supply. Let me put a monitor on her and see what's going on. And I'll be right back. Well, the Apple does come up and beep. So the processor's running, but it looks like, and I've seen this before, and it's like the video decoding, something, it hasn't been running so long. And I remember having this problem in the past. That's interesting that you see the actual scrolling of the video with the camera. But when I had this in the past, what the problem was, most likely it's a chip on the motherboard that's not making a good connection to the socket. So I'm going to have to pull all these chips, clean them, put them back in. Oh, look at that. Hey, different video. Now look at that. So it's trying. There, that's what I remember it looked like. As slowly as it's warming up, like I said, it hasn't had power forever. So this is going to be a little bit of a, there it goes. Let's reset it. It's it's got a memory, something going on. So this is going to be a little bit of work, but we'll get this working again so we can actually see the Apple II prompt to hopefully come back to life. Yeah, I figured it would be something like this after all these years, but I wanted to share that with you, and maybe we'll get this beast working again. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you follow along here with the progress.